Hi, thanks very much for joining me for another Marketing Monday. My name is Natalie Armstrong-Motin with Marketing Resolution, and I'm coming to you from a slightly different environment today. Today I'm in Rotterdam, in Holland, in the Netherlands, one of my favorite countries on the planet. And today I want to tell you a story. Years and years and years ago, I was a volunteer for helping to coach young business people. Really excited about it. And a young man approached me, needed some help, some mentoring. And he was the son of two artists. And he wanted to build, this was back when the internet was new, he wanted to build a website that would essentially be gallery space for artists. Because as the son of two artists, he understood that gallery space was hard to come by, that it was really expensive, etc. And so he wanted to build the online gallery space for artists. And I thought that was a lovely idea. And so we talked about the name of his company and how he would launch it, et cetera, et cetera. And one of the things that he had on his homework list, on his to-do list, was to obtain the URL, the domain name. And so I sent him off to do that. And he came back a couple of weeks later and said that he had, in actuality, found his domain name. He was super happy about it. He bought it. Life was great. And I said, fantastic. What domain name did you get? What did you ultimately decide to name your company? And he clickety-click, he opened up this nascent website, and the domain name for his company, Art for the Masses, right? Good name, Art for the Masses. The domain name came up, and I hesitated just a moment, and he saw my hesitation, and he looked, and I looked, and he looked, and I looked. And as it turns out, the way the human eye reads that name, Art for the Masses, when there's no spaces between those words, it gets read by us as Art for Them Asses.com. The reason that I tell you this story is, one, it's important to get a good domain name. It's important to think about the name of your practice. But two, the reason I tell the story is because had I said to you at the beginning of this program that you need to pay attention to the way the human eye bifurcates words or pushes them together when there isn't a natural space in a domain name URL, you would have appreciated the information, but probably not as much as having heard it in a story, in a relatable story. And so today I want to talk about stories and why they're so important. You know, for mediators and arbitrators who are sitting down for the first time to build a practice in 2022, or for those of us who have been here for a really long time building our practices, storytelling is a key element to what we do. It's not just how we build our practice. It's not just what we do on our websites. It isn't just how we convey who we are, what we do, for whom, why, how, etc. But it also is part of, the work that we do as mediators and arbitrators. Stories play a really key and integral part in what we do as professionals. But I want to talk today about why storytelling in your practice development is so, so important. And as resolutionists, this really should be right in your wheelhouse. This should be an easy thing for you to do. But the thing to note, the thing that I think is most important, is that in a story there is interaction. The story has a really big impact on the recipient's brain chemistry, and we want to pay attention to this. Listening to a great story releases very specific chemicals in the brain that create the kind of empathetic reaction that we know can be so powerful. We listen to people's stories all the time, and we know what those mean. We know what those do to us. And so we want to be sure that we're utilizing that for our clients in our marketing pieces, in our communication pieces. So for example, dopamine, which is associated with suspense, can help people focus, feel more motivated, and better retain the content that they're consuming. And this is good for us as business people because we want both our clients in a mediation or an arbitration, as well as the viewers of our videos, the listeners of our podcasts, the readers of our articles. We want them to focus on the content. We want them to remember it, and then we want them to feel motivated to taking some action after listening or viewing our content. Stories also release oxytocin, and oxytocin is associated with empathy and openness. So, being able to tell a story that involves empathy invites the people watching or listening to become more trusting and open to your message. This helps them transfer that trust, which is super important for us as mediators and arbitrators. This helps them transfer that trust to you, to the storyteller. And we all know that, the primary reason we get hired is because parties feel like they can trust us. But a good story also releases endorphins and phenylethylamine. Endorphins are hormones that are associated with laughter and having a good time. Phenylethylamine is an amine that has pharmacological properties similar to amphetamine, and it occurs naturally as a neurotransmitter in the brain. Its presence, I think you'd be most familiar with its presence in probably chocolate, right? Lots in chocolate. And it's one of the key reasons that most of us like chocolate so much. Phenylethylamine is, I guess, the happiness chemical. And when we feel happy, we want more happiness. We always want more of that. And when someone hears a good story from you in any medium, on any platform, they react predictably. They want more. They focus on your content. They remember it. They want more of it because it makes them happy. And they lean back and they relax. They become empathetic and open to you and your story. And they're motivated then to take action. So, a good story. What makes a good story? Gosh, next time you have the opportunity to either tell a story or elicit a story from a video channel or a podcast, I think that there are probably 8 really key steps to follow. These 8 that I've outlined or that I'm going to outline for you today, they'll work for long form interviews. They'll work for short form video. They will work for podcasts. They'll work for articles. It doesn't really matter how long your story is, but if you include the following 8 elements, you will keep your audience, your reader, your listener invested in your story and your practice. Really important. And I think that as I go through the list, you will recognize most of these elements, especially if you've studied writing or you're a big fan of movies or, read books. This is the kind of outline that most really successful storytellers use to create a story that people get involved with, that people get invested in. And the first of the 8 is enticement. And so this is the title of the book. This is the thumbnail on your YouTube channel. This is the thumbnail on your podcast channel. This is the component that is sort of the movie trailer. I mean, obviously when you're designing something like this, it has to be designed to get the viewer's attention and entice them to click on your video or your podcast or to open your article, right? So you want to use a close-up photo of your face. You want to create that connectivity with that graphic. You want to convey emotion in your image. So, is this a story about surprise? Is this a story about happiness? Is this a story about sadness? If you can convey that in the photograph that you're using, perfect. And you also want to include some really powerful text, right? You don't want to be provocative. That doesn't reflect well on our industry, but you do want to have really good text messaging on your thumbnail or as the title of your article or of your podcast. So, you want to sort of, I guess, reflect on what the content is so that the viewers, listeners, or readers can get an idea about what they're going to find inside or what they won't find inside. And so gosh, I see from time to time thumbnails that are really misleading, and I think that's bad form. I think that it erodes trust in the person that would theoretically click on your video or your podcast or your article. So you want to avoid that. But you'll do a good job. You'll find some enticing text. And then once the people have clicked over to read your article or watch your video or listen to your podcast, here's what they need to see and hear. And the first one that we want to talk about is character. You want to clearly identify the character or characters in the story. This could be you, it could be someone else that you're talking about, it could be someone that you're interviewing. But this part can be as simple as introducing yourself and giving your very soft elevator pitch. It can be an introduction that just sort of leads easily and naturally into the next step of identifying what the character wants. So first identify the character or characters. Then we want to identify what they want. So this next one is the desire section of your outline. And this step is identifying what it is the character wants, needs, desires. So for example, if your character is a hypothetical client, we all know sort of the most standard list of what our clients want from us. They want reasonable, durable closure. They want a faster process. They want access to justice. They want their voice to be heard. They want a less expensive process. I mean, you know the list. But those are generally the kinds of desires. And if your character is you, of course, you know better than anyone else what the pain points are, what the desires, what the needs are. If your character, though, is a guest that you're interviewing, use your mediator skills and ask some open-ended questions that will lead that person to disclose what their desires or their wants or their needs are. But most of the time, the desires that we're talking about, they're not very complicated. And I think, in fact, if if you keep it simpler, it's better. It's better for storytelling. So let's see. I've got, hi, Manuel. How are you? Yes, storytelling builds trust and enhances and reinforces trust. Absolutely. And Andrea in the comments. Hi, Andrea. Yes, I'm looking forward to connecting with you as well, Andrea. Thanks for joining me for Marketing Monday. All right, let's move on to number 4, obstacles. So as your story moves from character development and identification of what the character's desires are, now you want to start weaving into your storytelling the obstacles. Tell us what is keeping the primary character from getting what they really want or need or desire. It could be resources, it could be support, it could be time management, it could be lots of different things. Maybe they've got wrong information. It could be a lack of conviction, could be lingering self-doubt. It could be some form of discrimination. It could be lots of different things. But whatever the obstacle is, you want to keep it pretty simple and relatable. You shouldn't hesitate to have more than one obstacle facing your character, but you do want to keep it pretty simple and relatable, right? Hello, Sharon Jones-Hayes. How are you? Nice to see you today. And there's David. Hi, David. Nice to see you. Thanks for joining Marketing Monday. All right, the next section of our long list of 8, number 5, we want to talk about risk in our storytelling. So at this point, tell us what is at risk if the main character doesn't get what she wants. Stories that bring our fears to light, encourage empathy with the viewer or the listener or the reader. And stories that have similar fears to our own are relatable. So they relate to the character, but they relate to us, the viewer, the listener, the reader. And when we see somebody else conquer these similar fears, it feels in some small way like we too have conquered those fears. And that transference feels really good. And that's what we want as storytellers. We want our audience, our viewer, our listener, to feel good and get that rush of brain chemicals that I was talking about a little bit earlier. So the next the next line item in our outline of 8 is the hero. And the hero of the story doesn't have to be a person. It probably is a person, but it could be an activity, it could be a thing, it could be a place. But this is the time in your storytelling to introduce who or what gets the main character what they need. It could be, I don't know, sound counsel from a mentor or an advisor. It could be an introduction to a new resource. It could be better or more appropriate use of a process like ours, or any other sort of motivational tool that helps your main character find their way out of a struggle and beyond the obstacles. That's what we're shooting for as the hero of the story. And then we get to the part that is the how part. And the how in this part of your story is what specifically, right? What was the actionable thing? What specifically was the activity? Or what specifically was the advice? Or what specifically was the resource that let our character finally get what she needs, finally get what she's been desiring from the very beginning of the story? And so you want to tell us using an explanation, a demonstration, maybe a role play, a tutorial. This is where you give your listener, your viewer, your reader the quote unquote good stuff, right? This is where you give the answers. And then the last line item in really great storytelling, line item number 8 in our outline, is transformation. And so lastly, what we want to know is that the character in the story has been transformed in some way by getting what they desired. How did conquering their fears and overcoming the obstacles in this story get us to that happy ending? Step number 8 is the conclusion. It's the denouement. It's the fitting end to what might have been a predictable storyline, but it's the reasonable, durable solution, and ultimately that happy ending that makes us keep listening or reading to see if the story comes to a satisfactory conclusion, right? Which is really what we're all looking for in our marketing. Helping people move past the obstacles and into that transformation stage. In our mediations, helping people move past those obstacles and into the resolution stage. The outline is exactly the same. So that is it for me with this outline of, I think, pretty simple steps, just 8 of them. You'll be able to take your storytelling, like I said, via video or podcast or in an article or face-to-face in a mediation room. You'll be able to take your storytelling skills to the next level. Your stories are going to help you reach your practice goals because your prospective clients will have an opportunity to get to know you, to like you, and to be reassured that they can trust you. And I will encourage you to take advantage of video and podcast platforms in your marketing strategy. I promise it is a game changer. And of course, if you need help with setting up your strategy or creating a video channel or a podcast channel, please don't hesitate to reach out in the comment section below or send me a direct message, and I am more than happy to help you or get you the right resource that you need. So that is it for me and Marketing Monday. If you have an idea for topic content that you'd like me to address in future Marketing Monday episodes, be sure to let me know. If it's something that concerns you, worries you, you want more information about it, you need some how-to, you just need more, you absolutely let me know what I can do. So I will do that for you. Let's see, I've got a comment here from Cody. Cody says, I relate to the most important information when I'm searching for a specific story about my mediation coming up. I search YouTube every day and connect the story that is like mine. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. It's that connectivity that we're looking for. It's that interaction. It's that reinforcement that we want. So, all right. Well, that's it for me. Hello, Paul Wilson. Nice to see you on Marketing Monday. I'm going to log off now, but you know how to find me. And that's it. Be good humans.